Well, good morning. I think today is April the 3rd. We weren't able to camp at Ballbutts Gap Shelter as we had planned because a couple of families were camped there. So we got back on the trail and went just a very little ways, and we found a decent place to set up a tent, or two, or three or four, because I say that because me and Prepper set our tents up first, and then Speedy and Long Walkabout showed up and they set their tents up too. So we had a little bit of a tent city going on. Just noticed the wind's blowing. I hope it's not drowning out my voice too bad. So we're back to walking along the Blue Ridge Parkway, as you just saw. We are going to try to go, I think it's about 18.5 miles today. I forget the name of the shelter, but I'll end up saying it later today or sometime. But hopefully we'll have that shelter to use. That family won't get this far today. Trying to pay attention how I've got the camera aimed so you can see where I'm going a little bit. Sometimes I have a tendency just to point down too straight down to the ground. So I had a pretty good night, and we were able to visit with Speedy and Long Walkabout. Speedy, one of the interesting things about doing this trail is you meet people, you meet hikers from all over the place and all walks of life. I haven't met a medical doctor yet, but Prepper has. I've met 2 engineers, but Speedy is a high school English teacher in Canada. I think she said near Montreal. And the interesting thing about her job is in Canada, apparently, teachers and maybe other government workers too, I don't know, can elect to receive 75% of their salary over a 4-year period of time. And after 4 years of doing that, they're allowed to take a 1-year sabbatical and get paid. And that's what she's doing. She's on her 1-year sabbatical. And that's a pretty interesting concept. I don't know if it would be extended to other government employees or not. Long Walkabout, I think forgive me, I'm not, he's from one of the northern states up around Michigan, I think. Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. When I think of those states, I just think of northern states, but he's from up there, and he has a accent just like people around up there I've met. And Speedy has a interesting accent that I've seen people from Canada and even some people in Alaska that have that kind of accent. Nobody makes fun of anybody's accents. Of course, I'd be one of the first ones to be the recipient of making fun of if they did. But nobody has said anything about my accent or the fact that I'm from the South or anything like that. So that's one thing about this trail. It seems like it's sort of a great leveling ground, and no hiker thinks they're above anybody else, or they think anybody's below them. above them. So I like that. I think I'll sign off for a minute. Crossing the Blue Ridge Parkway again. This time it says we're at Mills Gap. See the sun shining in. See the view out over the overlook. If you've never been to the Blue Ridge Parkway, it's worth coming to. It's just a beautiful drive. Part of it is in North Carolina and part of it is in Virginia. And it, I don't know how many miles, like 800 miles I think or something. I can't remember the miles of it, but it starts at right at the edge of the Cherokee Indian Reservation in Cherokee, in sort of the eastern end of Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and it winds along the Blue Ridge in North Carolina, up above past Boone, and then it cuts somewhere up in there. And I don't know exactly where. I've never driven it up in there, but it switches over into Virginia, and then it goes a long way in Virginia, and then it meets up at the edge of Shenandoah National Park, and then Skyline Drive takes over. And Skyline Drive is very similar to the Blue Ridge Parkway, but it's a beautiful part of the world, and I'm thankful to be able to experience it. So the shelter we're going to be staying at tonight, if we make it that far, is Cornelius Creek Shelter, and it's still like probably close to 16 and a half miles from here, but I feel like I can do it. I've been sort of dealing with plantar fasciitis off and on for about the last year, and it's mostly in my left foot, and it has affected my hiking some, but I found that I got a pretty high quality insole that it helped a lot, and I did. It cost a lot more than a typical insole, but I got one, and so when I got on the trail back in February, they were brand new, and so I wore them in the other shoes, and then when I switched over to these shoes, I switched them over because they probably only had 300 miles on them or so. Since I switched over to these shoes, I've now put another 200 miles on them, and I think they're beginning to wear out, and so it's causing a little bit of discomfort in my feet. So I had asked Maureen to bring me a pair. She is coming to see me tomorrow for the last time on the trail before I make it to Maine. So that's one of the reasons we originally planned to go to Bryant Ridge Shelter, I think the name of it. It's a little shorter. It's only going to be a 13-mile day today, but if we go about 5 miles further, which is Cornelius Creek, then it would make for a 10-mile hike tomorrow, and she is going to meet us at Pettit's Gap. I think that's how you pronounce it, Pettit's Gap. It's spelled Petit's Gap, P-E-T-I-T-E-S, but I've heard a couple of locals call it Pettit's Gap. But anyway, she's going to meet us there. I think she'll probably be getting there around 1 o'clock tomorrow, So hiking a shorter day would give me more time with her. Of course, Pepper will be with me, and then we're going to, when we get picked up, Pepper's going to stay at a hostel in Glasgow, and it's called Stanimals. And then tomorrow, or no, not tomorrow, Wednesday, Maureen will take me and we'll go pick Prepper up, and we're going to light pack. We're only going to do about a 10-mile section, so we're not doing total zeros, but then it still gives me time to spend with Maureen in the evenings. And we'll take Prepper back to Stanimals that night, and then the next day we're going to do that again, and she's going to light pack or slight pack us another 11 miles or so that day, and then I'll have time to spend with Maureen, and my mom's coming too, and then on Friday I've got picked out a place up on the Blue Ridge Parkway where she'll drop us off for the last time. Well, that's where she'll pick us up on Thursday. But she'll drop us off there, and then she'll go on home. And Prepper and I will have probably a couple of days in the woods, I think, and then we'll be hiking into a different hostel with the same name, Stanimals. But this time it will be in Waynesboro. And pretty excited about making it to Waynesboro, because that's the southern edge of the Shenandoah National Park. So when we head out of Waynesboro, we'll be entering the park, and be about 100 miles of hiking through that. But when we get through Shenandoah, we'll be at Front Royal. And from Front Royal, it's not real far. I haven't looked to see how many days, but to Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Harpers Ferry, West Virginia is where the headquarters is for the Appalachian Trail Conservancy, and it is somewhat, I think, the psychological halfway point of the trail. It's not quite the halfway point. You have to go through West Virginia. There's 40 miles through Maryland, and then into Pennsylvania. And I think it's called Iron Furnace, Pennsylvania. It's where the true halfway point of the Appalachian Trail is. But we're just we'll be doing a lot of milestones over the next few days, and I'm pretty excited about it, and I'm pretty excited about making it to the halfway point of the trail. And I know Prepper is too. I just missed it. There was like a herd of deer run through there. I didn't get my phone out in time. There's a bunch of deer come through there. I couldn't count how many.